Well, Michael, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Um, as we sit here today, the health and the economic consequences of the pandemic are very clear in terms of the job losses and business opportunities, particularly in poor communities. And those communities have been the central focus of the new markets tax credit now since the beginning. And of course, um, we we hope to get some good news from Congress soon on an extension of the program, which expires at the end of this year. So we are coming on a big day. Uh, the the credit was signed into law by Bill Clinton on December the 21st, 2000. And since that time, the credit has leveraged over $100 billion in financing to over 6,000 businesses in projects in poor communities across the country. You, of course, were there at the beginning, or before the beginning even. So I wanted to pose a few questions on how we got there and what the prospects are for the future. So the first one is, as President Clinton, as he devised the anti-poverty campaign, he took a different path than past administrations. So rather than a grant program, he proposed a tax incentive, which of course is the credit. Can you share how your experience working with the president, including his poverty tour, helped shape the creation of the credit?
Thanks, Bob, very much, first of all, for inviting me for this historic marking event. And I think that it's pretty amazing when you think about it, that this credit has not only lasted 20 years across Democratic and Republican administrations and has done so much good in the world. But even that it came into existence in the first place, because it was a very tough political environment at the time in 1999 and 2000, very strong control in the House of the Republican Revolution. And it was very difficult to work across bipartisan lines to get this done. But I think that the 20-year longevity is a testament to the amazing work going on in communities all across the country. It's a testament to the work of community development financial institutions in meeting the needs of their communities. It's a testament to the creativity of people who are putting together deals on the ground, bringing the public sector and the private sector together. And really, this 20-year marking point is just a testament to the amazing work of people in communities all over the United States. So I'm just in awe of it, and glad to have played a role in helping to bring it come about. The work started back in the 1990s as we were creating the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, the CDFI Fund, and working with extraordinary people all over the country who for years had been building this movement to serve distressed urban and rural communities with creativity and with a good bit of grit. And we learned a tremendous amount from them. And as we were doing that work, it became clear that we needed a bigger tool, a more powerful tool than grants alone to be able to help communities. both because the politics of appropriations make it difficult to get to the kind of scale you need, and because the tax credit mechanism has a way of bringing new private sector actors to bear on longstanding problems of economic development. So working together with Gene Sperling and with other colleagues and friends in the Clinton administration, we devised this idea that we could have a comprehensive approach to investing in America's communities, in America's new markets, which is where that phrase came from. And we could do it with a tax credit. We could do it with additional programming. And that was really an exciting moment to think about. There were all kinds of design questions and fights and disagreements along the way, both internally and with Congress. But that basic concept was one that I think people understood, that we could use this credit to really help advance the interests of low-income communities. And I was very fortunate to get to work with President Clinton on this. He is a huge believer, as I know you know, in the new markets tax credit. One of the things we did early in the process to try and explain to people around the country the power that this tax credit could have is we flew around, the president flew around the country visiting with community leaders in distressed rural and urban communities. And I got to join him for part of that trip. And, it was an amazing experience all around, but I'll just say one of the highlights for me was going down to Clarksdale, Mississippi, and meeting with Bill Bynum, who was then forming Hope Credit Union and beginning to serve low-income communities in this remarkable way, and bringing people together. And Bill brought us all together, the president, myself, and other leaders. Mike Espy was there, Secretary of Agriculture at the time. And we went to a furniture factory where we met with hundreds of people who were working together to try and revitalize the community in and around Clarksdale. And they talked about the power that such a tool could have on their lives. And the president was very touched and moved by that event too. And I remember he, in a classic Bill Clinton way, we were just getting started for the event. And I was staffing him. I'm supposed to know everything that's going on, but the president has a way of knowing a lot more than his staff. So we're just getting started, and he goes out into the audience. He saw a gentleman in the middle of the audience who he knew from way back when, who had started the first African-American owned McDonald's in the South. And they talked for a long time about what that meant and what it has meant in terms of wealth creation for African-American entrepreneurs. So it was a long journey to get this done, but I think that at the end of the day, the president could see the value of it. Republicans in Congress could see the value of it. We came together with Speaker Hastert at the end to create this program. And I think that bipartisan legacy that was established at the time in 2000, really in the period leading up to that, and then leading up to signing in December 2000, that bipartisan spirit is carried forward, and still to this day, there's quite strong Republican and Democratic support for the tax credit.
Yes, that's absolutely true, and it has been one of the hallmarks of the work that we've done ever since. That every time we have worked to continue the credit, there's been support from all sides.
I think people can see the work on the ground in urban communities and in rural communities and the suburbs, really all over the country, as I was saying at the outset, just incredibly creative, hard work being done in communities. And that's what makes the difference. The New Markets Tax Credit is just a tool. It's the people who are in their communities who are using that tool to make good things happen that really matter.
So when the communities face economic just 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 stress when they have a flood or a hurricane, when population decline hits. They've increasingly turned to the credit as a way to bring back private sector investment, to improve services, and to promote economic opportunity. Since 2000, when the president signed the bill, there have been some changes to the credit. One has been a set aside for small communities, and Congress has done some other things like the $1 billion it provided to the GO zones in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. Did you anticipate the flexibility that's come with this credit? Have some of the things that have gone on with the credit, have they surprised you? Have they disappointed you?
I think that, Bob, the way we tried to build the design of the credit was to try and be open and flexible to lots of different kinds of uses. Mm-hmm. The idea of it was kind of like from the CDFI fund, let's support organizations and let the organizations figure out projects that make sense. Mm-hmm. So rather than trying to be prescriptive at the outset about exactly the kind of projects the New Markets Tax Credit support, we wanted it to support community organizations on the ground who were doing good in their community and could figure out for themselves what made the most sense on the ground. So that flexibility was a key design feature from the start. I think that I have been excited about the range of activities that have gone on. I would say, the one area where I think everybody thinks it would be better to have more flexibility is in helping the credit to support operating businesses, right, as opposed to being more focused on real estate transactions. Right. Right. And I agree with that, and I agreed with it from the start. But it's right. It's very difficult sometimes to make those changes that you would need to make that work. So overall, I'm just super impressed with the work people are doing with this tool. I've been thrilled to see it continue, as I said, in Democratic and Republican administrations. Thrilled to see it produce the kinds of outcomes you described with the numbers you just did. I mean, that's phenomenal over 20 years. And looking forward to its continued vitality in the future. And I agree with you. I hope that Congress re-ups it. I would love to see it made a permanent feature of the code.
So as a final question, in a few weeks, we will have a new president and a new Congress. Can you take a gaze to the future on the prospects for the credit, both in terms of the short run to help the recovery, but also in the longer term to promote revitalization in poor communities?
Bob, I think there's so much work to do to rebuild the country. And I think the New Markets Tax Credit can play an important role in that. Certainly in the recovery period, we have businesses all across the country are hurting right now in a terrible way. Much worse than in the Great Recession. Mm-hmm. Certainly worse than in the communities that were left behind when we first passed this credit back in 2000. We have communities who are really suffering and small businesses who are suffering. Certainly real estate markets and communities that are suffering and that are going to need a lot of help. And so I think the New Markets Tax Credit can be an important part of that. I think, as I said, we should make it permanent, and I think that it would be good for Congress to expand it beyond its current allocation levels because there is so much work to do. And I think it is a vital part of the toolkit to rebuild communities in a better way going forward, to give them the strength they need, the vitality they need. And it can be part of the way that our country can once again grow together. And I think that's absolutely essential for where we are right now. And I'm hopeful that the new markets tax credit could be a bipartisan approach, among others, to achieve that aim.
Well, this has been a real pleasure. Thank you very much. It's good to see you again, even virtually. And we will keep our fingers crossed for the coming years. Thank you, Mike.
Bob, it was a real pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, and good luck with the conference.
Thank you very much.